So 1 Million Cups is a weekly entrepreneurial program. We have 2 companies present for 6 minutes, and then we open it up to the audience for Q&A, first actually to our panel and then the audience. So if you have a question for either of the companies that are presenting, please raise your hand and we will come around with a mic. First this morning, we will welcome our expert panel and introduce yourselves. Grant Gooding, microphone.
Good morning. My name is Grant Gooding. I'm at a company called Proof Positioning. We position brands by knowing, not guessing. Essentially, we use consumer insights and small data to help entrepreneurs answer their toughest questions regarding marketing and messaging.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aditya Valetti. I was a former teacher in Kansas City Public Schools, and now I work for a nonprofit here called the Lean Lab. We're a startup incubator for ventures specifically targeting urban education here in Kansas City.
Thank you to our panel. Our first presenter today, I would like to welcome up Mona Amin with FreshSpire.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mona Amin, and I'm a co-founder of FreshSpire. So a problem that our team noticed was that grocery stores throw out $43 billion in food waste annually. This food sits in our landfills and contributes to the world's methane emissions, when it could easily feed the 20% of families in our nation that are food insecure or lack access to nutritious foods at affordable prices. Clearly, there is a large gap in effective food distribution, one that we solve through FreshSpire. FreshSpire is a mobile app that connects customers in real time to local markdowns on perishable foods. We help consumers navigate the markdown minefields at their local grocery stores by putting food in their carts and money back in their pockets. At the same time, we help grocery stores capitalize on otherwise lost value. And this leads to our overall company mission of reducing food waste. So this is how it works. Grocery store employees already mark down foods that are nearing their shelf life and that are cosmetically imperfect at their grocery stores. So we collect that information about the discounts, which happens about twice daily, and upload it to our API system, where we then relay it to users via our mobile application. Once logging in, users can find deals close to school, work, and home through the use of simple GPS technology, and the app itself is free to users. To only get notifications on certain kinds of foods, users can utilize the filter preferences provided on the newsfeed. The design of the newsfeed is innovative, and it's really easy and intuitive for users to use. At the same time, the admin portal for grocery stores allows the employees to seamlessly upload the discounts. And by just taking a few simple steps, grocery stores can recover lost revenue and increase store foot traffic. So this market is huge. Food retailers are globally distributed, but when taking just the stores in the US into consideration, we have a total addressable market of 228 million. Our market research proves FreshSpire's value, and after communicating with over 500 individuals, both online and in person, we found that affordability and consolidated significant markdowns are top needs among shoppers. So as far as our business model goes, we charge grocery stores a monthly licensing fee of $500, and this is targeted more towards larger retailers. And this licensing fee is insignificant given the fact that a store throws out $2,300 worth of food daily. In addition, this fee is only a fraction of what stores already spend on marketing for newspaper ads. So there are no direct competitors. However, some competitors can be looked at as weekly deal flyers from grocery stores or websites such as mygrocerydeals.com, which actually compile all of the flyers from various different stores. However, neither of these capitalize on the daily discounts that happen, and we're an innovative solution that actually recovers lost value. So right now, we are completing our time with the Big Idea Project Accelerator based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. We're the first group to go through this accelerator program. We're completing tech development within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and we're talking to a few independently owned stores based out of Raleigh and Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and we hope to pilot with them through the fall of this year. And through opportunities like the Millennial Train projects, which we are on today, and Richard will talk about it after I'm done presenting, but through opportunities like this and other conferences, we've been able to talk to corporate members at several of these large retailers and we're excited to provide them with the data from our pilots near the end of this year. So as we approach the end of our beta test, we'll be able to create more targeted users through data analytics. However, for the pilot test itself, we will target marketing to our potential users through in-store marketing as well as social media. And we will talk to potential users in school PTA meetings, community meetings, as well as college campuses. For the success of FreshFire, we understand the app has to be continuously evolving. So over time, we will use data analytics to track user behavior and quantify social impact. Because initially, our goal will just to be provide as much value as we can to the grocery stores we partner with. So we've gained national attention from many of these several large organizations, and the mentorship, capital, and support that we've gotten from many of these groups has been one of the factors that has continuously kept us going. So this is our team. We actually met at the North Carolina School of Science and Math, which is in Durham, North Carolina. We met during our senior year of high school. We wanted to present for a social entrepreneurship competition, and we found a cause that we were all passionate about. So we ended up placing first in that competition, and even though we decided that we were all going to different universities, we wanted to continue working on it. So all of us are pursuing various different degrees along the East Coast at different universities. However, we use Google Hangouts and Slack Instant Messenger to communicate on a daily and weekly basis. So it's worked well so far. A common slogan we like to go by at FreshFire is save the produce, save your wallet, save the planet. We want FreshFire to be more than just a mobile app. We envision it as a social enterprise that reduces food waste, changes public perception of the word's expiration date, and provides accessibility to nutritious foods. We want to start to revolutionize the way that people look at food that's nearing its shelf life, and we want grocery stores to play a vital part of this change. So join our journey and get FreshFired. Thank you.
We're going to open it up to our expert panel.
Hi, Mona.
Yes. Hi.
Thank you.
No problem.
Food, huh?
Yeah.
You didn't want to tackle a big problem, did you? So first, I want to know where you guys are. Do you have your MVP set up already? Do you have your first grocery store onboarded?
Yeah, so right now, like I said, we're in an accelerator. So we're working with a tech development company in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we don't have our MVP yet, but we have a prototype. And we're talking to an independently owned store that's actually opening in later August called Blue Dogwood. So we have a few meetings set up with them, and we think as they come in, we'll be able to introduce FreshFire as well. And we're also talking to a few co-ops in Carborough. And farmers markets are good as well, just to increase exposure. But the only problem with farmers markets is that we're not able to integrate from the back end. So it's just more of a way to expose ourselves and get more users.
So, so thank you for that. Mm-hmm. That being said, so I have a few. I have several questions actually. So this is the first time that I've seen a model that tackles this particular problem that brings the people back to the grocery store, which I think is cool because while you say you don't have any direct competition, you have a lot of indirect competition, which are people who are going into the government, they call them government rooms, right? And they're not-for-profits that are taking that food. There are organizations that are mediaries in between those end users, which could be gas stations sometimes in the inner city where they don't have any fresh produce and things like that. I really think that you need to be paying attention to the grocery stores. And the reason I say that is because they're archaic, right? And so you're bringing a highly technical and sort of invisible business model to them. And what are the logistics going to look like? How are you going to get them comfortable? Because they still use newspaper ads, like you said, right? So this would be a huge leap for them, and you not only have to do that, you have to prove the model in order to get it to be scalable. Have you guys done any analysis on your break-even point?
So I guess to talk a little bit about what you said earlier, with the food rescue that happens, we're targeting more of the grocery stores that already make the discounts on the foods like twice daily. So it's just like relaying that to users. And like in regards to break even, could you like explain more what you mean?
So I mean, mobile applications are incredibly difficult to monetize, and very rarely do you ever see a mobile application that breaks even.
Yeah, okay.
That's why I'm just concerned.
Yeah. So we project a deficit initially, but by year 3, when expanding to, I think, sorry, I had like the financial projection slide, but I left it out. But it was by year 3, like we would be having a steady revenue.
And that's just based on the $500 a month licensing fee for each grocery store.
Yeah, and expanding through, I think it was 150 stores.
Okay.
Yeah. Because like the development itself, the only cost like afterwards will just to be maintaining the app itself. So, and besides that, there's only like few like marketing costs that we would have. So most of the revenue would be going into the technical development and maintaining the app.
I had another question, but I forgot it.
Okay, sorry.
I really only had one question, which was not asked already, and that was, so you talk a lot about, can you just talk a little bit more about who your ideal user would be? I mean, you start off in the beginning about families that are food insecure, and then you also, and like now it's like trying to get people back into grocery stores to like buy produce at a discount. So just sort of, like families that are food insecure often don't have money to buy groceries anyway. So just can I get more clarity on that?
Yeah, so our initial goal is just to reduce food waste. Right now, like on this trip, we're doing a lot of analogous experience research to talk to food rescuers and farmers markets to understand how we can close the loop to provide back to families in food deserts who don't have grocery stores nearby. So initially, we're just focusing on reducing the food waste. So more of our target users will be college students and smaller families on low income or budgets, or people who are also budget conscious.
I remember my question because of D. I think yes. So have you done any type of consumer research to identify if people are going to be able to use this? Because this is one of those things where it really could go either way. Like people like will never use this, or people will trip over themselves trying to use this because of like my mind goes like the couponing craze, right?
Yeah.
And so is it going to be like that, or is it? Do you have any idea on whether or not adoption levels? Have you done any type of research to indicate whether or not people are going to use this?
Yeah, so with the accelerator, we had access to their entrepreneurship clinic, so we did a lot of field research in different age groups, and most of the research showed like Fresh Bar to be pretty receptive to users. I mean, obviously, like we haven't done a pilot yet, so we're not going to get the idea of interest until we actually get in. But from the market research we've done, most people based out of North Carolina, where we've done our research, have been pretty receptive to using it. Because we don't look at Fresh Bar as just a coupon app, because coupon apps mostly focus on foods that are packaged, and this is like fresh produce, meats, dairy, bakery items, so all of that.
We're going to open up questions to the audience. I thought there was one.
Hello, I get to be the first question again. I'm so excited. First of all, I personally feel that expiration dates are for the week. Have a magnet that says so on my refrigerator. As a college student on a budget, I appreciate your idea, and I think that maybe you could use it to kind of remind students to eat healthy. Like, hey, we got some produce over here. It's a good deal. You don't have much lycopene in your diet. Let's get some antioxidants. Okay, but beyond all that, to address some of the concerns that were brought up by the panel, what if you used your analytics to identify secondary markets, like to get in the back end of the farmers markets? Because a lot of times what you have is like second generation families from other countries that don't speak English very well, but they're able to negotiate with grocery store chains to get their produce that's starting to expire before it gets to a certain point. This allows the grocery stores to collect a certain amount of margin on what would otherwise be waste. And then it also benefits the community because this is providing an income stream for lower income families. So it's more of a hand out or a hand up versus a hand out, which I think is the best way to enable the community. That being said, I spend a lot of time wandering around the city market here, I know that that is the situation here. I, at first, was very discouraged whenever I found this out because I thought I was helping local farmers on the weekdays. Turns out I was actually helping Price Chopper, but I'm still okay with that. Because Price Chopper's closer to me, I can walk there, but I can also wander around and be like, oh, hey, can I get this? It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm chatty. Sorry. Anyway, I'd be willing to help you extend your pilot here and maybe get some feedback from the secondary market if you would like to work on that.
Yeah.
I think that could be a better way to utilize your MVP.
Definitely. Thank you. I'll give you a card later.
Yeah, I'll give you mine too.
Thank you.
Okay, question again on your left.
Oh, yes. Hi. Really enjoy your concept. I think it's really good. I don't know that it will, I'm concerned about how it may affect, as a follow-up, food deserts and areas, because a lot of times where you have low income, you have food deserts. So I don't know if it affects that, or maybe if a lot of users in those areas show up, then maybe that becomes the way a store says, hey, maybe we ought to put a location there. So just thinking about that from the future standpoint. One of my questions is, how many users are you projecting for your pilot?
So because the store is fairly new, we don't have an idea of that specific store in Chapel Hill. But I didn't mention this earlier, but there's a farmer's market in Greenville, North Carolina, where I go to school, and we did text notifications last summer. So it was a little different approach from the mobile app. But we went to community centers just to target people in need, and the food market was accessible to those people. So through that, I think we had like 70 to 80 users, which isn't much, I know, but that's a smaller community. So I don't have an idea yet of the grocery stores that we're going to work with, but I mean, I think it has great potential.
Okay.
So.
More than the grocery stores, I'm more concerned about the users, because the grocery stores only use it because the users use it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and are users going to be able to share data? In other words, maybe the store knows about something, but I found out even faster than the stores are the people who actually shop in them. So will users be able to share data with each other saying, hey, yeah, they said they had a markdown, but it's even lower than that now?
Yeah, so there's like social media integrations where, I mean, it's kind of like Facebook newsfeed, so that you can like comment and post as well and share on social media. So, thank you.
Question back here to your left.
As Grant commented on, this is a really big area, and I love your passion, I love your energy, I love your direction. You're early stage, and so you're all over the place with this, and you start off with kind of food waste and then food deserts, and you ultimately told us that your customer is the grocery store. That's who you're charging to use the app. So what I'm curious about is what their problem actually is, because I'm seeing what a lot of early stage entrepreneurs they do is they see the problem through their lens of food waste. I'm curious what validation you have from the grocery stores that they actually see the problem. I know you said they have $2,300 daily of waste, but I'm guessing that's built into their business model, and what indicates that's a problem for them?
Yeah, so as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the grocery stores that we're targeting are the stores that already make those discounts. So in talking to some of the larger retailers, they've been pretty receptive to the model, and initially we're actually going to start piloting with Target this summer in a few stores based out of Raleigh. We're in with their CSR department, but they had an open call for innovation, so they have a lot of new technology startups that they're working with. So we're still talking to them, and we know that there are some retailers that don't work. So Whole Foods and Food Lion, we've met with them, and they have a model in place where they basically donate any food item approaching shelf life 2 days before it's even like discountable. So they have this whole fresh perspective, so they don't want to mark down those kinds of foods. So from the large retailers we've talked to, they've been pretty receptive.
So you've started to refine within the grocery store segment, specifically a portion of the grocery stores that will be an early adopter for this. And then how does this transfer into customer behavior who's buying the produce? How do we know that pricing is what keeps them from buying it, and this will then change behavior? Have you done any research or validation into that aspect of it?
No, we haven't, so thank you.
Another question in the center.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
Nice presentation. I love the idea. I'm curious about what kind of data you're gathering from the users, and just thinking about that, of any data, I'm assuming there's going to be some value in that data. If you've thought about selling that data or being able to use that as another point of revenue for the business.
Oh, no, we haven't. Yeah, we do have a lot of research, pages and pages, so that would be a good idea. Thank you.
Another question in the center.
I'm just curious about what it's supposed to look like when you're a consumer using it, because the thing that I imagine is that you're getting a notification on your app that something is going to be really cheap over at some store, but I'm going to be driving around to 16 different stores to get these good deals, and it's really going to end up costing me more.
Yeah.
So how's that supposed to work?
Yeah, so when you log in, I can show you a prototype later too, but when you log in, you can enter your address, maybe your home address, your work address, or anything else near you. And so when you open the news feed, you can select certain addresses, so you can find deals in that area, or it's kind of like I said, like Facebook, so it's constantly updated with stuff around you. So, and you can also filter, kind of like on Google Maps, by distance around you as well. So we're trying to make it easy for the user, and you can save deals on your grocery list. So say like you save 10 deals and you realize that 8 of them are from one store. When you go back to your shopping list, then you can make the decision to just go to that store instead of 5 of them.
Over here to your left.
Great presentation. It's
Thank
a
you.
really great idea.
Thank you.
I had a question about the website and the social media. How much of the information that's available on the app will be available to a user, say, on a library computer who doesn't have a smartphone?
Yeah, so right now it's just being built for smartphones, but it is, I don't really work with a lot of the technical development, but I'm sure we can have some sort of a news feed on websites. But that's why we've tried to work on the text notification system last year. We just think that we'll be able to provide more analytics with an app. But thank you.
Question in the very back.
Hi, Mona. Very good presentation. Could you just tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, and your entrepreneurial journey here?
Yeah, like I said, I'm a student at East Carolina. I came into college as pre-med, so I have early acceptance into the medical school at East Carolina. But during high school, we started this just to enter a social entrepreneurship competition. And that competition was actually for college students. And to think that, you know, as high school students we won, we thought that this had a lot of value. So we've been working on it for about 2 years. Because we were kind of young, a lot of it was out of process in the beginning. But the accelerator really helped us get our branding down and our mission and values. So I think after I graduate this year, I'm going to work on FreshFire to see where it goes, and then maybe reconsider going back to med school.
Question in the back center.
So not so much a question. I just wanted to compliment you on pursuing something like this. I think it's worthy. All the work that you've done, getting up here in front of everybody, and so I just think that's awesome. And that you can do all of the research and get all of the analytics and everything that you want, and that is not going to tell you whether you're going to be a success or not. It's really up to you.
Yeah.
So you can do all the research and get all the data, and it's all in the end meaningless. So I just want to compliment you on what you're doing, and keep going.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mona this morning? Anyone?
Go ahead.
I want to build off the...
You got to turn it on, Kyle.
I want to build off the last question and comment. Your presentation was textbook. Like, we all have so much to learn from how good that was. But I'm very curious what excites you about FreshSpire and how that can come through more in your presentation.
Yeah, so for me personally, we had a Harris Teeter down the street at the School of Science and Math. And so some of my friends and I, we would always like walk down and look at the produce discount racks, and like we'd walk out with bags of like produce for like 20 bucks. And it was, we realized like, wow, this is amazing. And when we went near the end of the day, we saw the racks still full. And while there are people who bargain shop, there's just a lot of people who don't know about these discounts or may not be interested in buying it just because it's like nearing its shelf life. But I mean, it's great food at such cheap cost, so why not take advantage of it? So I think just for like college students or people who are budget conscious, it's great. And I would love to be able to provide that value to people who don't know about it. And like I said, we're here today just to explore more research about how we can reach communities in need. I work with the Umbrella Market in Greenville, North Carolina, so I'm really passionate about like smaller farmers markets as well. So yeah, it's a little bit more about why I'm interested.
So actually, our final question for you today is, what can we as a community do to help you here in Kansas City?
Yeah, so our POS system is being built so it's adaptable to different stores. So if anybody here like works in the grocery store industry or has connections, it'd be great to hear from you guys, as well as anybody who works in food rescue. I'm meeting with Cultivate KC and Missouri Organic today, but any other industries would be great as well.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, before we get to announcements this morning, I would like to welcome up Richard from the Millennial Trains Project that brought these lovely ladies here to Kansas City today so he can explain a little bit more about what they're doing this summer.
Thank you, Courtney. Good morning, everybody. As Courtney said, my name is Richard. I am the Director of Outreach for the Millennial Trains Project, and we are a crowdfunded nonprofit. We lead transcontinental trains journeys for millennials across the country, and we actually just arrived into Union Station last night on our set of vintage rail cars. We came in from Chicago yesterday. The day before that, we were in Pittsburgh. And the Millennial Trains Project, Mona and Michelle, who you will hear from in a second, are two of the 26 participants that we have on board our car. The rest of the participants are actually meeting with Mayor James right now. And then they will spend the rest of their day advancing their individual projects, meeting with local leaders. And the project ranged from what you hear today to artists, researchers, advancing projects that are meaningful to the communities that they live in and to our nation as a whole. And yeah, we hope you follow along. We'll actually be visiting Urbana KC later this evening, and we'd love to connect with any of you if you guys want to meet any of our participants and follow along our journey. The train departs tonight at 10:30, and then we will be heading to Albuquerque. After that, we'll be heading to Los Angeles, our final stop with this group, and then we actually have another group of millennials that will be heading from LA to Detroit. So again, thank you so much. This is an incredible community to see, and we're excited to explore Kansas City today. So thank you.
Yay. Okay, I will do a couple of quick announcements. The announcement sheets are in the back if you haven't already grabbed one. Today at the Sprint Accelerator, there's an equity and crowdfunding meeting. So the SEC recently changed up their rules, so if you have any questions about that, I would highly suggest going over to the Sprint Accelerator. Also, next week is KC Co-working Week. So if you haven't visited all of the co-working facilities, next week is your chance. My business is currently at PlexPod, so I would love to see all your happy faces there next week. And then the last announcement, Missouri Business Alert is a new news publication that you guys can subscribe to for entrepreneurial activity in Missouri. So they asked me to give them a shout out. They are going to, I think, present October 12th, but just kind of to get subscribed to them, and then we can ask them some really great questions when they present. So, oh, Mug Club. You want to do Mug Club?
Oh, yeah. So if you've been to 1,000,000 Cups more than 10 times, stand up. If you've already got one of these, sit down. All right, you're up. You asked a question today, so it's first day. That's great. Tell us why you come to 1,000,000 Cups for the first or more than 10 times.
The main reason is because there's no other way to get on the ground floor of knowing what's going on, and I don't want to read about it in the newspaper. I want to hear it straight from the presenters. So I think that's pretty cool. My name is Vonzel Sawyer, and I'm an entrepreneur myself, and just have a lot of good energy here at Million Cups. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to welcome up our second presenter, Michelle Ching of Literator.
Oh, now it is. Good morning, and thank you all for being here. I was not expecting such an amazing turnout in KC, so this is a very warm welcome. So thank you very much for being here. My name is Michelle Ching. As it says up here, I was a teacher in Oakland, California, which is where I came up with the idea for Literator. And I'm now the founder and CEO of this startup, which I'm going to tell you more about. So I was overwhelmed, standing in front of my classroom of second graders, looking at 7-year-olds whose future outcomes depended on my ability in that moment to teach them how to read. Whether or not they could read by the end of the year would have a direct impact on whether or not 10 years down the line, they would graduate from high school. And this felt like an impossible task. My students' needs and literacy skills were drastically different. And I feared that I could never be prepared enough, never have enough time or resources to adequately address each of their individual needs. So I sought out best practices. I refused to let this be a barrier to their future potential. What I was given was reference books, textbooks, binders, templates, a million different things, none of it consistent, and none of it that really felt natural and unintrusive when I was sitting in the moment reading with a student and trying to help them. It didn't exist until we built Literator. So what is Literator besides a tool that's helping teachers help kids read? It's a mobile app that provides all of the skills and behaviors, over hundreds, that teachers can use to guide their students in their literacy development. Here's how it works. A teacher will sit down with a student and pull up Literator and be guided and prompted to see exactly the behaviors that that student should be exhibiting in that moment and be able to prompt and guide them through that process and assess and track their performance. By swiping up, down, or to the left, they can usually capture this data intuitively without spending a lot of time. Before, teachers might have been juggling textbooks, binders, trying to scribble down notes. Now, they can just be present while still recording data. The best part about that afterwards is that Literator automatically provides them with insights, next steps that they can use in their classroom to inform small group instruction or provide interventions. And it's free. It's a free app for teachers. Our business model is based on a paid dashboard for schools and districts. What we're providing for schools and districts is something they've never had before, which is real-time daily insights into the reading performance in their schools. We can predict student outcomes, plan interventions, solve problems before they become impossible to solve. I am incredibly lucky to have an amazing team. Jing is an ex-Apple designer. She actually worked on building Safari, and her gift is in building beautiful things that are easy to use. And Jeff is an expert engineer with experience from Visa and GE, and has had multiple startups that have been successful. We started a pilot of the mobile app in January, and have grown since then to 500 teachers who are trying the app across 30 states and 4 countries. That's over 12,000 students who are having their individual needs met because their teachers are piloting Literator. Teachers are telling us this is a dream come true, and this app is awesome, but the thing that really resonates with me the most is that we've taken the barriers out of this process, this very important need to serve students the way that we should. They say that they finally feel like they can do this. We've just been honored with the Teach for America Social Innovation Award, which has actually allowed me to go full-time. My 2 co-founders were actually already building full-time, which is how we've been able to get so much traction, and now all 3 of us are working on this venture. And the reason I'm in Kansas City today, as Richard explained, is because I'm a participant on the Millennial Trains Project, which is sponsored by the Rockefeller Foundation, IDEO, and NBC Universal. And I'm here to make sure that we're meeting the needs of teachers everywhere, across the country, not just in the area where we started. We're changing the way that the outcomes for students who have traditionally been left behind because they were considered too far below in reading. We're taking the best of user experience, design, technology, and literacy expertise to bring solutions easily and affordably into classrooms. But we've just started. We won't be finished until we close this literacy gap, a literacy gap that disproportionately affects students of color and students in poverty. It doesn't have to be this way. We've addressed some of those core root causes in how we've designed and built Literator intentionally. So here's how you can help. We're out building community. We're building brand awareness, and we're building our board of advisors. So, thank you.
Great job. We're going to go ahead and open it up to our expert panel.
Hey, so I was wondering if you could go a little bit more into detail about the dashboard for schools and how that helps with your overall plan to help close the literacy gap, especially within school buildings.
Totally. So one thing about how data works in schools right now is schools generally collect benchmark data about 3 times a year. And the results from that data inform the interventions that they provide, the programming they provide, the curriculum they decide to get. And all of this happens in a really, really slow process. So kids might take a test in January, and we won't see the results for months after that. And with that kind of feedback loop, a lot of things are left behind. The kids have already failed to grow and get the intervention and support they needed in that time. So the dashboard is meant to be this automatically refreshed dashboard with insights into reading growth and performance. And these are all from teacher observations. We're removing this need that relies on standardized testing and benchmark testing as the only way to understand what's happening in a school site. Principals and school leaders, school district leaders have the best intentions, but they don't have enough time to get into classrooms and see what's happening on the ground level with the students. Instructionally, it's impossible to support so many diverse needs. So because teachers are using this tool and using observation instead of testing and basing it on exactly what they're seeing, we're able to translate those specific insights at a really broad level. So if you were using the dashboard at a school, you'd be able to see grade level specific trends. Which skills the students are struggling with the most? Which demographics in your school are struggling the most and why? Rather than just seeing that they're performing below, you're actually finding out exactly what strategy they're struggling with. So then when you do targeted interventions, you're actually providing specific solutions rather than just broadly saying, we have a literacy problem, which we all know we do.
Actually, first I want to say, actually, Michelle, to both you and Mona, thank you guys for tackling big problems, right? Like, you guys are both sort of moonshot thinking here, which is what our generation needs to be doing. So thank you guys both for that. Obviously, it makes your the execution of what you're trying to do incredibly difficult, but if you don't start taking steps in the right direction, it'll never get done. So immediately, actually, Michelle, I thought was, oh my gosh, huge fragmentation problem, right? Because there's a million apps that will teach a kid to read. So you're approaching it from, all right, well, let's go to the infrastructure first, and that's going to be where the adoption is going to happen, yes? Yep. But then I was kind of impressed. You have 300 schools on board. So the next, I was like, all right, well, they got something. And so, but then I was waiting for the slide after that that was going to show me the success rates, right? And just some testimonials, and that's great, but where's the data? Because that's how you're going to sell this thing. Yeah. Because that's what the school boards are going to see. So literacy increased by 8% among XYZ demographic, right? Do you have data on that?
That's totally, that's so accurate in terms of one of the things when you're building an ed tech is that you need to prove efficacy. And one of the ways we're doing that is trying to compare historical data with literator data. The thing is, with a new pilot, it's really difficult to see if what impacted their literacy growth was just our app. So what we're doing is, in the beginning of this next school year, we're comparing a full year's of literacy growth with the changes in behavior of teachers, the frequency in which they're meeting with students, but then also in terms of literacy success rates. So all of those things are definitely things that we're like paying very close attention to, but don't yet have all of those proof points to provide.
Dang. So I'm going to ask a question on behalf of entrepreneurs in this room, and like even some of my clients that I can think of. How in the hell did you get a rock star staff like that to work with you?
Oh, not by walking into tables. So This is actually a question I get asked all the time because technical co-founders are one of the most difficult thing to come by. And so I'm in the Bay Area. We are awash in tech talent. And you would think that it'd be very simple. So the reason I actually came up with Startup Weekend, with Literator is because I went to Startup Weekend EDU, which I know just happened here recently. And I pitched Literator for the first time there. And there I met with a group of 5 engineers, designers, et cetera, who were able to help me build a MVP prototype. It didn't work, it wasn't beautiful, but it helped us win. After that, though, we had meetings about going forward and working together, and it became very clear that our values were misaligned. So I had this amazing team of very highly, talented and capable engineers who also, in conversations, would use the words equity in air quotes. And so there was a split. I left that team. I made a decision to be a solo founder for a minute while I found people who could actually build this. And so what I did was I did what we're all told to do, which is network. I went to events constantly. And so I actually met Jing at a design lab for women to rethink the way that incubators work so that we can talk about the investor-investee relationship. Now, we were the only 2 people there who were a millennial age and of less experience than everybody else. And she had happened to mention that she'd left Apple, she was doing consulting, and she was really excited about doing more social impact work. And so, I'm crossing my fingers in the back of my mind that maybe this person is interested. So I pitched her later the next week and told her about what I was working on. I asked her, I'm looking for a CTO. What should I be looking for? I did not ask her to be my CTO. I specifically, questioned whether or not she had the skill set in the first place. Sure, she worked at Apple. She built Safari. I'm sure she's very talented. But does she know what this problem space looks like? Does she care? Those were things that were really important to me that I think a lot of people miss when they're just looking for co-founders. And because of that conversation and because of the way that we framed it, because I was able to communicate my passion and my dedication to this problem, I think it really resonated with her in terms of getting somebody who can do something that's social impact related, right? So she actually told me, no, I need a full-time job. I am not at Apple anymore, and I bought a house in San Francisco. I can't work with you, but my friend Jeff is super talented. He has all the right skill sets. You should totally talk to him. So I emailed her the next day. I asked her for Jeff's contact information, and she said, actually, nothing else is as exciting or moving to me as what you're building, and I want to make sure that you get to that point in which you can pay me to be the CTO. So I want to join your team. But we should also call Jeff, because he has all the other skill sets that I don't have. So I met with Jeff. We had a long conversation over coffee in which he basically railed me with questions about why I should be a CEO. Why is this a good idea? How practical is this? What is this space actually like? What do I even know about any of these things? And by the end of it, I was like, wow, this guy is a jerk. And as we were parting ways, he's like, I'm really excited about working on this. And I was like, what? And since then, that was almost a year ago, I've had them both working with me full time. So it's a lot about being vulnerable and communicating really honestly what you're looking for without immediately asking people. I think being open to no is, in a way, opening yourself up for lots of yeses.
Thank you. Yeah, us jerks, we get a bad rap for sure. So last question, jerk question, right?
Cool.
How you gonna make money?
How are we gonna make money? So we have the, excuse me, my throat is very dry. We have the dashboard in development right now. We're piloting it at a few different schools. Rather than just focusing on elementary schools, we're actually piloting at a middle school and a secondary school as well, that the principals actually reached out to us to do. But this is the dashboard that we're selling to schools and districts. So it's a per student license annually, in which you can get all of the insights for your school site, and then the teachers can use the app for free.
So another question that I have is, so usually one of the problems that I see with edtech companies or edtech solutions for education is that they tend to take the current system and make it just much more efficient. And so, the literacy gap has a lot of deeper problems, like students not feeling engaged with the material or having to be taught in ways that are not culturally responsive and all that. So how, I understand that you make the data loop a lot quicker, but is there can you talk a little bit more about things that you're doing to address like the deeper fault lines in literacy?
Definitely. Like I said, like equity is one of the things that, are one of our core values as a company. I think a lot about the disparities in our education. I've only taught in really, really high need, high poverty schools. And so if I were going to build a company that didn't address, some of those core fundamental problems, I'd be remiss. So what we've done with Literator is the fact that it's a tool that teachers use within their classroom space with whatever resources they already have, we're already eliminating this need for other materials, right? But on that same level, the kids are choosing the books that they're reading. Whether it's at their level is like very important, but it's also an interest that they already have. Another thing is a lot of ed tech tools in this space actually take students away from the teacher and put them directly in front of a computer. And this is really great for adaptive learning and like progress monitoring and things like that, but reading is such a vulnerable thing for children, for anyone actually, who's learning to develop literacy skills. It's hard to self-monitor, it's hard to know what you're doing wrong, and if you're just reading and answering questions on a computer, there's no one there to support you as you struggle through this process. And so what we're doing is we're changing that idea that like tech can only be useful in the classroom if like the teacher is empowered to do other things. Rather, we're focusing on the teacher themselves and making them better at their job, allowing them to do what they're best at, which is be present with the student. And also, in these schools, there's so much trauma. And one of the things that we know in education is really, really impactful is this like development of social emotional skills. And one of the ways that you can do that is by having direct relationships with these students. So if you're literally going around one by one and reading with each student, you are building this deeper relationship with the student. You are supporting that student individually and giving them attention that they need. So these are all things that like we've thought about intentionally. So thank you for that question.
We're going to open it up to the audience. Here's a question. I'll go right here first.
Now that you're in beta, what are your pain points as far as how it's being used in the user interface? What are the issues you're finding? Getting the schools on board, getting the teachers on board, getting the students on board?
Oh, pain points in education. It's like one and the same. One of the things is, like the consistency, our framework is really broad. We focus on a spectrum of literacy that can be easily adapted. Our metrics make sense across whatever platforms you're using or frameworks you're using for literacy, although they come from research and then frameworks that schools are already using. But that being said, as I've been traveling across the country, I meet with schools and teachers and administrators and districts that either have no common system or no common curriculum or no common framework. And so that's a huge pain point. Also, time. Time is such a tricky thing in schools. It's an ebb and flow of when teachers actually feel like they can early adopt something that's brand new like this, something that they can try out. It's a huge risk for teachers to invest time into doing something that they're not sure is going to completely work. So it's been a pain point to get into that sweet spot of like just being in that space to have the teacher's attention. But once they're in, it's been really incredible to see that we have the reactions that we do. But again, it's meeting the right schools, the right teachers, the right places that are welcoming to that. There are a lot of people who are like, we're just not ready for that, even though it's actually the problem of not having this. They're not ready. And that's just, my opinion. Thank you. Thank you.
Question over here to your right.
Thank you for doing this. Awesome idea in the reading space.
Thank you.
So this is a two-part question. Does the app only work with the teacher interaction and the student? Mm-hmm. And then the second question to that is, does the app still continuously work with the student without the teacher continuously helping them to read and collecting that data and sending it on?
Have you been peeking in our future files? So we have, this is our MVP right now. Even though it's a product, you can download it on the App Store or the Google Play Store. It's something that teachers can use and are using right now. It's not the tail end of what we're trying to get to. We know that one of the most important things that people miss in EdTech is that what you should do when you build a tool for teachers and students is bring joy. And one of the ways we can do that is by actually addressing the student themselves. So it's something that we actually really, really want to do. It's something that we haven't addressed yet, but that is something that is actually really important. It's about by having the student feel engaged in that process of growth, having them be able to recognize each little movement that they make, understanding their goals. Those are things that we're like touching upon, but definitely working towards.
Question to your left.
Michelle, this is a great idea.
Thank you.
Being a parent of a child who, for an IEP, for
Yep.
reading,
Mhm.
what's the parent interface?
Yeah, so we just built this into our app actually because we had so much amazing feedback. So after a teacher works with any student, they can actually share that information immediately in a really quick email to parents or also IEP resource teachers, so that there's a communication loop that we're also closing. So I know, as you're a parent, you might know that it's difficult to actually understand what the problems are when it comes to how to support your student. And we're actually going to give you the skill that your student is working on, whether it's like, hey, your son is working on context clues this week. So when you're reading with him at home, you can talk to him about context clues. And then we're also closing that misunderstanding between what's happening in the resource room, where students with individualized education plans or special education needs are getting support. And also, being able to collaborate with teachers really effortlessly in like a simple action of like, hit send, there's the other person. So.
Back here to your right.
Thank you very much for coming today and visiting us in Kansas City.
Thank you for coming.
And telling us about this, because Kansas City is, with UMKC, the education department here has been a leader in that KU, and I'm sure they'll get some traction in our community. The Sunni Shia split in learning reading over the last 40 years has been the phonics, non-phonics teaching. So are you adapting an existing, because there's several competing programs, when I learned, they were all SRA was the big thing with the cards, the plastic laminated cards.
Yeah.
Anybody remember those? That was the technology of that day. So are you based on a phonics, non-phonics, or have you adapted a commercial program or another program that's a non-smartphone oriented program to this?
So I'm really glad you brought that up because I've been trying to convince my co-founders to implement this while they're also working on all these other things. For those of you who aren't as familiar with the literacy space, there's this weird fundamental split between phonics instruction and literacy instruction as though they are not intertwined and dependent on each other. Essentially, you have to understand, when I was teaching in the classroom, I would come across students who literally would spend months at the same reading level. And I was using Literator. I'm like, what is happening? I know all of the skills that you're not doing, but that's not even the problem. And at the core of it was this misunderstanding of phonics. There are certain letters that they're understanding incorrectly. There are certain sounds that they just don't recognize. And it was one of those things that really brought up for me, there's something called the Core Phonics Survey, which just actually brings students through, reading through letters and doing sounds and reading words that are both made up and imaginary, so that you can assess whether or not they understand those fundamental phonemes, okay? So what we're trying to do and what we're planning to do is actually implement, before the reading levels of our spectrum is going A through Z, we'll have a pre-level, which is the Core Phonics Survey, essentially, or something very similar to it, in which a teacher, the same way, can sit down with a student, have them read these letters that will provide, and the teacher can just tap on the letters that they're missing, or the sounds that they're missing, or the words that they're missing. And in the same way that we're telling them, hey, this student cannot read with pictures, or this student doesn't understand the first letter of a word. We're also saying them, they also don't know R-controlled words. They also don't know long vowels. They also don't know letter Q. And these are things that are really, really fundamental and important, and definitely a part of bridging that phonics and literacy divide, and something that we're trying to address in this app.
Question, back center.
Fantastic idea. Really,
you.
really like the creativity involved in your product. We talked a lot about the product, so I wanted to sort of focus on, it seems like this would be a perfect candidate to maybe possibly get a technology grant, an educational grant of some sort. Also, going forward, the possibility of presenting this at some of the teachers' conferences around the country, and also maybe targeting school boards, because this would be something that they would get very excited about, I think, maybe before the teachers, because they want to have great literacy in their schools. But have you looked into any technology grants or any educational grants to forward this project? Because I think it's a fantastic idea.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, these are things that, there's so many out there, and I would appreciate any that you have on your radar. But every single day there's always something, another application that I should be doing. But I'm very excited too. Don't get me wrong. I would love to apply for all of them. So please, if you have any of those resources, they'd be really valuable. And then in regards to like the school boards, we have talked to some school boards, but we're really, I mean, this might be my teacher bias, but I really strongly believe that like a top-down introduction of what we have would actually be really fundamentally like flawed. I think teachers need to love it and feel really confident and be able to tell us what they hate about it before it can be something that's widespread and adapted by all schools or school-wide or in a whole district. And that's something that we're already learning from right now and building upon. So yeah, we would love school districts to buy on, but we're pushing back on them to say, give your teachers more time.
Over here to your right.
Yes, my question is, it's unclear just the mechanics of the flow of the use of this mobile app. If you're sitting down with a student one-on-one with a hard copy book, and then afterwards you go to the app and fill out the charting data, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
or is the app itself actually have a portal to learning reading stuff?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. So essentially what you'll get is all this teacher needs to do is enter their students and their reading level. That's it. Once they do that, everything else is populated for them. So if I walk up to Adisha and he's my student and I'm reading with him, do you mind if I use you? Okay. I'll pull up Literator on my phone. I will click on Adisha's name, and I now have whatever level Adisha is at, all of the skills and behaviors. Rather than seeing the entire spectrum of what he could be doing in literacy, I know within his zone of proximal development, to get very education specific, exactly what he should be using to which skills he should have to leverage onto the next level. So it's about incremental growth, about realistic growth, and it's guiding me through that. There's another thing that I didn't mention, which is prompts. We actually, if you click on a skill, we'll provide teachers with questions, ways to start a dialogue or conversation that will actually help the teacher to assess whether or not that student understands it. And help the teacher if you're unfamiliar with these skills. There are hundreds of them, so it's not like a something that is on the onus, should be on the onus of teachers, but currently is. That's something that we support them with.
Comment on the back.
Sure.
Mona and Michelle, thank you for bringing your energy to 1 Million Cups Kansas City this morning. This is awesome. If the rest of the people on the train are like you two, I can only imagine how exciting the week is. If for the folks in the room, if you're really interested in what Literator is doing, it sounds like great work. It reminds me how blessed we are in Kansas City to have the Lean Lab, which is bringing this year brought five companies like you into Kansas City to pilot these concepts, and they're doing a demo day, a pitch day in September. So if you like this type of stuff, plug into the leanlab.org and get more information. Really good work. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so our final question for you is, what can we as a community do to help you?
So yeah, if you know of any resources, teachers, schools, I'd love to talk to any and all of them. If you have thoughts, feedback, I'm here and I would love to connect with you. Like I said, we're also looking for advisors. So I have an advisors for sale right now, but if you have expertise in spaces like business development or enterprise sales, is something that we're still building more on. And also just community building, that's something that I would love to get your perspective on. So.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
So next week at 1 Million Cups Kansas City, we have Data Game and we have Bug Eater Foods. I am hoping they're going to bring samples for you guys to try. So we will see you next week. Thank you.